Okay, again, today is the 3rd of June 2023, and we'll talk now about a very important landscape architect and artist, Roberto Burle Marx from Brazil. Let's read a little bit about him. He was actually born on June 4th. Roberto Burle Marx was a Brazilian landscape architect, as well as a painter, printmaker, ecologist, naturalist, artist, and musician, whose designs of parks and gardens made him world famous. He's accredited with having introduced modernist landscape architecture to Brazil. He was known as a modern nature artist and a public urban space designer. His work had a great influence on tropical garden design in the 20th century. Water gardens were a popular theme in his work. He was deftly able to transfer traditional artistic expressions such as graphic design, tapestry, and folk art into his landscape designs. He also designed fabrics, jewelry, and stage sets. He was one of the first people to call for the conservation of Brazil's rainforests. More than 50 plants bear his name. Not a little thing. He amassed a substantial collection of plants at his home, including more than 500 philodendrons, including some that were discovered by him and bear his name, like Philodendron Burl Marx. So we are dealing here today, paying homage to a very important, indeed, landscape architect. The builder of jungles, as he was called by Martin Filler from the New York Review of Books. Interesting, provocative wording, the builder of jungles. This was the man. You can almost, guess his preoccupations from the way he's, from his attire. Now, the Copacabana Promenade, the pavement, which he did. Pavement landscape, large scale, 4 kilometers long, mosaic, completed in 1970 on the famous Rio de Janeiro beach, influenced by Portuguese pavement. So 4 kilometers. I mean, even if you are an architect and you'd like to build, there are many ways in which you can manifest your love for architecture and your creativity. And landscape design is, one that is very close at hand, so to speak. 4 kilometers, Rio de Janeiro. And you can see the patterns, the forms, because he was also an artist and he did graphic works and paintings and so on. There is a lot to do. You can look at the pavement of let's say sidewalk or anything like a canvas and do an artwork and then apply it to that place and you change it, and actually for the better. You see here how much variety in the design of the pavement. These are huge opportunities, and they can be found anywhere in the world where you already have roads, sidewalks, there are horizontal surfaces everywhere, public or private. But the public ones offer a great opportunity to manifest your creativity, your talent, your artistry. Roberto Burle Marx, a very interesting man. In Jotim Brumadinho, I don't know what this is, Centro Educativo Burle Marx, Centro de Arte Contemporanea. Now, I don't know if he did here the structure itself, the architecture, or just the landscaping. The exuberance of the Brazilian spirit and temperament is well illustrated by this important Brazilian artist and landscape architect. Sao Paulo, 1954, Ibirapuera Park. Roberto Marx, Oscar Niemeyer. So he collaborated here with the great Brazilian architect Oscar Niemeyer at the Ibirapuera Park. So you see the playfulness that Takefumi Aida talked about can be very well used, implemented in even in urban design and certainly in landscape design. It would be sacrilegious to make within a park operating with nature, let's say just, Cartesian, paved work or, straight lines and so on. It doesn't make sense because this is not how nature works. There is something else. I think the Faculty of Architecture in Cincinnati, Ohio, in the United States was wise some good years ago when they decided to have a department of horticulture within the Faculty of Architecture. I think it's possible in the near future that all schools of architecture would have such departments because the plants are crucial to our survival and we need them, and so we need the people to work with them. Flamengo Park, large public park in Rio de Janeiro built on landfill. Roberto Burle Marx. There are interesting suggestions here because again, if you are concerned with the outside, the space outside of your building, you can be very creative by considering it artistically, as he does. La Riconada Hippodrome in Caracas, in Venezuela. Parque del Este, Caracas, Venezuela. Again, the graphic artist and the painter is very useful because you are operating with colors, with the lines, with the form, and form does matter. And it's not an easy job, as you can imagine, because you work with live material, with plants. It's very sensitive. In a way, perhaps it's easier to work with bricks, concrete, stones, and steel or wood. But here you are working with an organic material which is alive. It grows towards light. So it needs the maintenance is extremely important. And we are going to see a little bit later, very, rich, natural work done by Roberto Burle Marx, where I'm absolutely sure it was easier to conceive it than to actually maintain it. La Lagunita Country Club, also in Caracas. I think the building was done by Oscar Niemeyer. You see it on the right, but the landscaping was done by the landscape architect. Now this is a very nice work. It's a church built by Oscar Niemeyer for St. Francis, and it's an earlier work by Oscar Niemeyer, but a great work. And Roberto Burle Marx did the landscaping. So on the right, you see the church by Oscar Niemeyer with the artworks by a Brazilian painter with scenes from the life of St. Francis. And you see the concrete shell of the the roofing of the church. And then by contrast, the landscaping of Roberto Burle Marx. Not bad. Cascade Garden, Longwood Gardens, Pennsylvania. This one is, it's, I wouldn't call it a jungle, but it's this dense, aggregate of plants. I don't know. It doesn't sound good to say aggregate of plants, but it's an incredible density here of vegetable material. And so that's what I'm saying. Such a work needs continuous maintenance of the, the highest order. Otherwise, this would become very soon something very different. In fact, I don't know how you can control something like this. Because as opposed to construction materials, these plants grow and die and then come back to life. They have the cycles of, their life is not linear, and it's very difficult to maintain. I'm absolutely sure. Imagine that our buildings would manifest themselves in the same way, to grow towards light, and in the spring to bloom, and then in the fall to fall, and so on. No way. But Marx was a master of this. If 50 plants bear his name, you can imagine. Roberto Burle Marx, not bad. And it's in Pennsylvania, the United States. You have to be a painter too, to work with the colors of these beautiful plants. Miami, Florida, completed posthumously, but no picture, sorry. A botanical garden in Maracaibo, Venezuela, a little bit hard to see. Yeah, I regret I don't have a better picture. Anyway, the whole world was his canvas, so to speak. Kuala Lumpur city center in Malaysia. Another vast park designed by this Brazilian landscape architect. Casa Forte Square, Recife in Brazil. No pictures, but no, I have no pictures. And now it's a little bit a deficient presentation. It should have included more material, but like an introduction to his work, it tried its best to achieve that. So now we look at some random pictures of his works. Roberto Burle Marx. It is clear that such an activity is not exclusively cerebral activity at all. It's actually very artistic, and it has to be artistic if you are dealing with nature, meaning it has to be sensitive, it has to be emotional even. It has to be even spiritual in some sense. Because maybe Frank Lloyd Wright was correct when he was asked, do you believe in God? And Frank Lloyd Wright said in an interview when he was already over 80 or 85, he said, I do, but I spell it nature. In a way, dealing with nature is dealing with God directly. Now, imagine this becoming a park. It could be very rewarding, creatively speaking. Or this, for that matter. Revisiting the constructed Edens of Roberto Burle Marx, the New York Times. Again, provocative title, The Constructed Edens, meaning the constructed paradises of Roberto Burle Marx. And this is the website where I found this title, published in the New York Times in 2016. Revisiting the Constructed Edens of Roberto Burle Marx. And this is a large artwork for a university. I forgot exactly where it was done. So the landscape designer or architect also did a lot of graphic art and painting and so on. He was an artist. He had the soul of an artist. And we need the architects with the soul of an artist too. The more, in my opinion, the better. And here is, I don't know, Copacabana, with all he covered 4 kilometers of asphalted canvas, if I am to call it so, with his vision. Not bad. Roberto Burle Marx. And here is a self-portrait. When he wasn't making things, I think this is the last image, or this is the last part of this presentation. Somebody wrote, when he wasn't making things, sculptures, jewelry, theater costumes, hand-painted tablecloths, he was collecting them. A small selection from his significant holdings in Brazilian folk art, much of it Roman Catholic in theme, is in the show. In a 6-decade career, he designed some 2,000 gardens, assisted in later years by his longtime associate Haruyoshi Ono. Japanese, of course. Many of those plans, though arduously pursued, were never realized. Roberto, Burl, Marx. Thank you, and let's wish him happy birthday.